Here's the full pay to win breakdown as far as we know. All right. First thing you need to understand, a brand new experience awaits you in the lands of Taya. Welcome to Watcher of Realms, a next-gen fantasy RPG playable on PC, Android, and iOS. This game brings me a lot of relaxing and exciting experiences while playing my favorite mmorpg. Immerse yourself in what will feel like a real fantasy world with high-quality 3D models. You can expect stunning visuals with hundreds of unique collectible heroes. You'll also experience 360-degree real-time operational battlefields, each with different characteristics, having you utilize all of your hero abilities properly. Timing and aim will be crucial in these battles, which, by the way, only last for 2 or 3 minutes. Quick but fun battles that you can experience anytime, anywhere. Watcher of Realms is committed to creating a time-saving and user-friendly hero development system. You can expect to get many powerful heroes in the early stages for free. With the holidays coming up, now is the perfect time to start and check out the new Christmas events. Right now, you can obtain a new legendary hero and skin for free just through the daily logins. There's also an event right now where 2 camps formed by influencers are competing with each other for rewards. Choose a camp and take part for some nice rewards yourself. Download Watcher of Realms by using the QR code or by clicking on the link in the description below, along with the competition event. First thing you need to understand, main currency is Lucent and Solent. All right, this is Solent, and this is Lucent. Got it? You can just ignore this. Just these are the 2 things, okay? Lucent is purchasable with real money. The auction house, aka the marketplace, which is what they call it here, the currency that is used to purchase goods is Lucent. Within the auction house, okay, within that auction house marketplace, you have base level gear that you could purchase. Think Black Desert Online, where you're not buying like maxed out gear. You're buying base level gear right here. You can also purchase recipes for the gear. These recipes, in order to craft specific sets of gear, you do need a recipe piece along with other mats, along with other materials. Okay, so when it comes to the materials, you can really think of it like you've got some of the materials that are required to upgrade your gear and craft your gear that are available in the auction house that you could swipe to purchase. But the other materials that you need, most of the material that you need, you have to actually farm in game. And the weapons itself, or the gear pieces itself, you can purchase as well. Okay, so I'm going to elaborate on this here in a second, but I do want to say this. The cash shop, the currency that's used is Lucent and Solent and USD for USD, which is Korean won, which you could use to buy specifically just the battle pass, the growth pass, and the costume package that they sell. This is kind of like a game package type of thing, right? The growth pass is the leveling pass that you get from levels 1 through 50. That just gives you a little bit of a speed boost there. And the battle pass. Where does the pay to progress, pay to win aspects come? Well, obviously it comes from purchasing Lucent and purchasing gear. When people ask me what the pay to win is like, to be perfectly honest, guys, the pay to win in this game, minus the fiance, is exactly like Lost Ark. Almost. It's very similar to Lost Ark, where you could purchase gold, buy things in the auction house, but then you have silver, another currency that bottlenecks you, that's required to make upgrades. So here's the process. If I were a whale, if I were paying to win, here's the process. Okay, I'm gonna go, I could go to the marketplace, which most people that have never played this game, they're gonna be like, well, you could just buy this best in slot. This isn't best in slot, but let's just say it is. Okay, let's just say these gloves are best in slot. Okay, I can buy this for 2,800, and obviously some of these are going to be priced extremely expensive, right? Well, what do I do once I get this? Well, this is base level gear. I have my own gear right here, and in order for me to use that piece of gear that I just purchased, I need to transfer the previous piece into the new piece to transfer the experience. This cost me 300,000 at this stage of the game. It cost me 300,000 Solent. I can tell you this right now. Nobody in this game is in full purples despite being able to pay to win, simply because of the fact that everyone is bottlenecked by Solent. Period. Okay. Also, if you're not transferring, if you're leveling it up from base, all right, you need to upgrade it with these growth stones. Where do you get these growth stones? You can't get these growth stones. They're not tradable. You have to farm these growth stones in game. So you can purchase base items, but the process of upgrading those items, you cannot swipe for. Okay? You cannot swipe for Solents. You cannot swipe for growth stones. Okay? So it is pay to win in the regard of getting the drop that you want. It is not pay to win when it comes to upgrading that piece to max. And believe me, it takes a long time and it takes a lot of investment to upgrade your shit. Okay? Take that as you will. Some of you guys are thinking, oh, then that's not bad. Some of you guys are thinking that's bad. Whatever. I don't care what you think. That's the system in this game. Now, right now, the reality is that people are really struggling for Solent. Solent is a huge bottleneck and not difficult, and it is very difficult to come around. we are finding ways to grind Solent more efficiently, and apparently there are other events, milestones that will be released that will allow us to farm Solent more effectively. But as of now, Solent is the biggest bottleneck. In addition to that, what you guys also should know, because this is a little bit, because this is a Solent sync, is when you die in this game, okay, you get a logged death. Now you're gonna look at this and be like, oh, okay, you have to spend Solent to get back your 5%. Okay, oh, it doesn't seem like a bad system. This isn't the most punishing part. The punishing part is that when you acquire 20 deaths, you gain a stack, a debuff stack, a death penalty stack that reduces your damage by 10% and your movement speed by 10%. Every single death after 20 deaths gives you one additional stack of that. So what does that mean? It means you need to not die, and if you die a lot, you can fuck yourself with Solent, okay? And yes, those deaths include PvP. Some people are thinking this is bad. Some people are thinking this is great. The reality is there are real punishments to dying, and that also affects the outcome of fights. This is why you might see some guilds or groups disengage during fights against Zergs, because they'll be like, it's not worth the deaths. Okay, so there's that. Now let's talk a little bit more about how you go about Lucent. So one thing that I didn't mention that's extremely important is that Lucent, it is farmable. That's the big question. Is Lucent farmable? Because you're telling me, Kanon, you can purchase Lucent and I can just purchase, I could use it to buy goods off the auction house. Originally, this was labeled as a premium currency, and it kind of is, because it's used for most of the goods in the cash shop. What we're learning is that Lucent acts more like gold. Any item that you obtain in the world as a drop, okay, any like gear piece, obviously like you can't trade a growth stone, right? Any tradable item that you get in the world, like I'm grinding mobs, I get a gear piece to drop, I can sell it for Lucent. Okay, I'm gonna sell it like this right here. I got a drop here. This is selling for 40-50 Lucent. Okay, now to kind of gauge things, some of the items, like this is for 70k, but this is never sold ever. Look, price of last transaction, that's not going to sell. Okay, so like you'll see some like this, I don't even think this is, yeah, these items aren't going to sell regardless. Even if some of these items right now are like 7k, 5k, 10k, how realistic is it to grind that? Well, putting things into perspective, fresh 50s in this game, fresh 50s, those guys are making like a couple thousand Lucent right now a day. Probably Black Gamer. No, these are free to play gamers in my guild, in my alliance. In my alliance, I know we're not pay to win because outside of me and like 2-3 other people in the entire alliance of like 300, 400, how many people we have now, 99% cannot swipe because you need a Korean ID, Korean phone number to do so. So no one's swiping here. We're pretty much free to play, okay? Which, by the way, if you want to know, can a free to play player compete? Well, if you want to look at the only ranking that this game has, here you go. Here's the activity ranking. This ranking is more on what you're doing. If you want to look at the kill ranking, which is where the pay to win would tie, here's the breakdown. Here are the rankers. Here are the rankers. I will say I was top 15, top 10, but I fell off because I stopped PvPing a little bit. But here are the rankers. Everyone that you see with an HP tag, there's like a 99% chance that person's free to play, by the way, because they're in our alliance. As you can see, everyone, almost majority of the players are there. Okay, real-time ranking, the guilds right now, we're a free-to-play guild and we are winning by 20,000. We're ranked number 1. We're the biggest guild, biggest alliance on the server. We're ranked number 1. We have the most territories. We have 5 different territories right now. We are running the server so far. We are being contested by Koreans, whom I don't know, maybe they are paying to win, but it certainly isn't pay to win. Even though you can technically pay to win by buying those mats, it's not pay to win in the beginning, at least up until now. Just because, like, you need to farm the items for them to be listed, and then once they're listed, people can swipe and buy those pieces. Those weapons and that gear obviously is not currently on the marketplace. So obviously there's going to be less pay to win. However, you know, I still wanted to show you, here we are a week over, what are we? We are on day 8. Okay, we're on day 9 here, approaching day 9, and the server is being run by free-to-play players on the Korean servers. Okay, and a free-to-play guild. Okay, I don't know what else to tell you. That's the only ranking that I can actually show you because that's all they have. Okay, so when we're talking about Lucent and Solent is like Silver and Lost Ark. Lucent is like the cash up currency / gold. You can absolutely farm Lucent on your own. You also get Lucent, by the way, through the guild. If the guild gets a drop and we sell it for Lucent, then that Lucent can also be distributed across the guild. You can farm Lucent that way. If you get the castle, if you get a territory, you also collect taxes. Okay, so there is a major incentive both for Lucent and Solent to really push competitively as a guild. This is the reality of the pay to win in this game. Some of you are gonna like it, some of you are gonna think it's tolerable, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, I want you to understand that if you think that this is pay to win, all right, then you need to also admit that every single MMORPG outside of Final Fantasy 14 and Guild Wars 2 is also pay to win. Okay, so if you're sitting here and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna play this game because it's pay to win, your ass better be playing Guild Wars 2 or Final Fantasy 14. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I'm not saying that the pay to win is good. I'm not saying the pay to win is bad. And I also want to say that we still need to experience the end game grind, because even though we are at the end game, we're still trying to get end game gear, right? So we're not really experiencing the true loot. Maybe we get there and Lucent drops like crazy. Maybe Lucent drops like it drops. Maybe Lucent it barely drops and it's extremely difficult to keep up. We don't know. We're gonna find this out. I want to know just how pay to win it is, but I do understand what the pay to win system is, and that's what I want to show you. Now, I don't know. Maybe later on, the loop revolves around perfecting your trait, right? Here's a scenario. Here's a bad scenario for the game. So this piece of gear, do you see where it says trait, right? The end game loop is probably going to be around min-maxing these traits. All right, this is important to know. If you're really trying to predict what the pay to win is going to be like at the end game, well, we're thinking that the end game is most likely going to be revolving around min-maxing these traits, not the base gear. Okay, so this is the interface for the traits, okay? So pretty much how this system works, all right, it's kind of a confusing system, but the TLDR to the system is that in order to min-max these traits, you're going to need the exact copy of another item in order to transfer traits. TLDR. Okay, so if I'm thinking this, we're thinking this is pretty much going to be the end game loop when it comes to really min-maxing your gear. I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking that it is. We have to get there, right? And if that's the case, then you will definitely have an advantage when it comes to purchasing said gear on the auction house, right? Because I could just purchase this right here. Let's say I purchase this. Okay, and this has melee endurance. All right, let's go. Whoops. Melee evasion, mana regen, max mana, melee evasion. So you can outright purchase these pieces of gear for the best traits, which, by the way, I think come Western launch, when a lot of people don't realize the importance of these traits, this could be worth a lot. It could be worth a lot of Lucent. So there are things that you could do in the early game if you know what you're doing to really rack up Lucent and really save Solent and really become really strong. Because to be perfectly honest, by the way, just because a piece is purple does not mean a blue piece does not mean it's better than a blue piece. Maybe even a green piece. We're not going to get into that, but that's pretty much the system. Those are my thoughts when it comes to pay to win. All right, well, specifically just like what I'm kind of thinking the endgame loop is going to be, but mainly that's the system. So whether or not you think that's pay to win or not, that's up to you. If I do upload this on YouTube, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.